The race for principal officers of the forthcoming 10th National Assembly may have assumed added dimension, with reports this week that the opposition caucus might be throwing their hearts in the ring. There's also a report that lawmakers across party lines on the opposition side of things are finalizing plans to work together for greater capacity to upstage the ruling All Progressives Congress. Bamidele Salam is a member of the People's Democratic Party from Osun State who just won re-election to the House of Representatives. He joins us now to talk about the National Assembly leadership positions and the impending opposition coalition ahead of the battle, his legislative agenda, and what factors responsible for PDP's clean sweep of Osun State. Many thanks for being here on Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon, Nigerians. Good afternoon to the whole world.
Now, let's start with the leadership of the 10th National Assembly. Some people believe it should be based on zoning. Some have even called for it to be zoned to the southeast in the interest of equity and inclusion. What's your take on that? Okay,
first let me state that to put it in proper perspective, we have two chambers of the National Assembly. We have the Senate and we have the House of Representatives. For each of the two arms of the National Assembly, there are so many considerations and so many agitations from different power blocks, different interest groups, of course, different geopolitical zones, advocating that the position of the Senate President and that of the Speaker of the House of Representatives should be zoned to them. Now, there are a lot of factors that will come into play in each of the political parties because zoning is essentially a tradition, a practice of political parties. The political parties will take into consideration a lot of things. They need to ensure inclusion. They need to ensure a certain degree of balancing. They need also perhaps to reward some degree of support for the political party in the last election. It will also take into consideration the need to ensure national stability because by the virtue of the fact that we are in a very diverse country where you have diversities along ethnic lines, cultural lines, religious lines, and every other various kinds of diversities that we have, you will need to have some balancing that will ensure national stability. For the Senate, for example, it is almost a conclusion on the part of the system or of the stakeholders that the southern part of the country should produce the Senate President, perhaps in consideration of the fact that it's been like a tradition for quite a while now that where the president of the country comes from takes the Senate presidency, while the other zone or the other part of the country now takes the speakership of the House of Representatives, except on one occasion where that has been disrupted. And then the speakership of the House of Representatives from the northern part of the country. Now, which zone in each of these geopolitical zones takes any of these positions is also a matter for political parties and interest groups to decide. If you look at the speakership of the House of Representatives, for example, now, from virtually all the three geopolitical zones in the northern part of the country, you have people coming out to aspire for the position in their numbers. From the northwest, from the north central, from the northeast, you have people indicating interest, in their numbers, and a lot of them are engaging with stakeholders in their political parties and also engaging with stakeholders in the National Assembly, members of the National Assembly who actually will eventually determine who takes what position in June when the National Assembly is inaugurated. So all these things, will play out in the next few weeks in a manner that will eventually congregate into maybe one or two persons eventually going for the election, if that eventually happens on the day of the inauguration, which is the first sitting of the National Assembly in line with the Nigerian Constitution.
And earlier we were speaking about the minority caucus, and it seems that a bunch of opposition parties have bandied together in order to go against the popular party in the country as it is. How likely is it that this minority caucus can win the votes of the presiding officers in order to put up even a bit of a battle and shift the numbers for their own sake?
Well, you know, politics, like you rightly said, is a game of numbers. And most likely, where you have the kind of coloration that we have today in the National Assembly, where unlike what we used to have, where you have only two major blocks, the dominant political party and the main opposition political party. Today, you have an assemblage of political parties that are not in the ruling party, making up the larger number of members in the House of Representatives, from the People's Democratic Party, the ABGA, the Labour Party, the NNPP, the Social Democratic Party, the African Democratic Congress, and quite a few other parties, the Young People's Party. Now, I don't really think that the question should be whether the opposition will eventually take it, but that the opposition, to my own mind, may also be trying to prove a point that we need to be engaged. We need to be fully involved in the emergence of the presiding officers of the National Assembly. By practices and convention, the parliament is usually presided over by the dominant political party. And the dominant political party in the 10th Assembly is the All Progressive Congress, which is just the single block of a political party that has the largest number of membership. Yes, if you have an amalgamation of all the other political parties, the number may be more than the All Progressive Congress, but they are still we are still the minority political parties. But we want to also be involved in the emergence of that leadership. So whichever way it goes, it will be a game of wit. It will be a game of engagement. It will be a game of deepening the kind of conversation we have around the kind of leadership that the National Assembly deserves. Because whoever emerges as the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives or the Senate President or Deputy Senate President is not going to be President or Speaker for only one political party. He will be President and Speaker for all members of the Parliament, regardless of their political party. And a few of the persons aspiring for these offices, even from the All Progressive Congress, have also been engaging with members of other political parties, engaging with the leadership of other political parties in realization of the fact that they cannot go it alone. So this is the context in which I understand, what is playing out in the minority caucuses, and not necessarily, a kind of a resolve that, the table will be turned. Yeah, it could be, perhaps if the dominant political party does not get its acts together. But sincerely speaking, I really think it is more of asking for deeper engagement, deeper consultation, and a spirit of let us do this together in the spirit in which the last Speaker of the House of Representatives, Bamidele, emerged. If you remember very well, it was more or less like a quasi-coalition of political parties coming in the form of the joint task of the 9th Assembly that produced Bamidele. Perhaps that is the same kind of a thing that some people are also asking should happen now, where the dominant political party, the All Progressive Congress, and the major opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, and other political parties will have a very remarkable say and involvement in the production of the leadership of the two chambers of the National Assembly, and eventually in the running of the National Assembly, because no party can actually, go it alone.
Well, Honorable Bamidele Salam, House of Reps member, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.